This is Chris Bosh, and you're watching Jalen and Jacoby.
He is Jalen Rose.
What up, though?
I'm David Jacoby.
And on the cool check-in.
Together we're Jalen and Jacoby. What is it that we
We
do?
give the people what they want.
The NBA season really started last night where we had a full slate of games, and Jalen Rose was texting us early in the morning being like, we're going to talk about every single game, and that's exactly what we're going to do, and we are going to start right here in Brooklyn, New York City, where the Nets hosted the Timberwolves and they debut of Kyrie Lrving. What did Kyrie do? He scored 50 points. 50 points. Although the Nets lost, it was a very impressive outing for Kyrie. What do you think about young Kyrie Lrving?
He put on the show, and it was dazzling. And this is what I was describing to people the entire offseason. Anybody that asked me what did I anticipate from the Nets this year? Rucker Park in Brooklyn on a big stage. And that's what Kyrie Lrving is going to represent. The oohs and ahs between the leg, behind the back, ankle breaking, shooting off both feet, finishing with both hands, playing in the clutch, knocking down threes, exciting the fans, and possibly being the same record that they had last year when it's all said and done.
Well, what do you think about the last possession where he kind of waited to take the last shot even though it was about 12 seconds left? Curious decision there. And then he broke his own ankles, ended up on the ground, somehow kept his dribble, got up, and still got like a pretty good look from about 16 feet. Wasn't that a weird last possession?
Actually, it was not a weird last possession. The way he was cooking, they went 1-4 low. And I remember screaming at the TV the entire game, at some point, are y'all gonna run somebody at Kyrie? They continued to choose not to do so. And so he went into his bag and he slipped. But when he got up, Jacoby, that was a wide open 16-foot shot that was uncontested. I thought that was money. And usually when you're playing the way he plays, that shot goes in. Unfortunately for he and the Nets, it didn't last night.
Well, we are celebrating Kyrie, but he did lose the game to the Timberwolves, who were powered by a great performance from Karl-Anthony Towns, who had 36 points and 14 rebounds, and he did a lot of it from beyond the arc. What do you see from Karl-Anthony Towns?
I saw a guy that at Kentucky, think about this. Coach Cal made sure that big fella played near that painted area on the floor, 15 to 18 feet away. And I was doing college game day those couple of years. And he was like, he can really shoot the three, but I really need him down there. And in college, he didn't shoot threes, but he always had the skill to. So for a guy his size, that's gonna get me the boards, that's gonna give me the blocks, and also can shoot with knockdown range the way he can, I think now he's poised to try to live up to the potential of a player. Just a couple of seasons ago, the GM selected him to be the player of all in the NBA that they would build around.
And you know, I always say it's not what you do, it's how you do it. He's not the only big player in the league that shoots threes, but he doesn't just get catch and shoot threes. Like you saw in those highlights, little jab step, like he's like doing stuff and hitting threes, and they look good when he does it. I hope it's a big year for Karl-Anthony Towns, who said everyone was sleeping on the Timberwolves, and maybe we are. Good win for the Timberwolves last night in Brooklyn, but now we go to Philadelphia, where the Sixers hosted the Celtics in a matchup of what I would call two of the best three teams in the Eastern Conference, and it was the duo of Simmons and Embiid that carried the Sixers to the wins. Simmons had 24 points and 8 rebounds, 9 assists, almost triple-double. Embiid had 15 and 13. What did you think about this big matchup between two powerhouses in the Eastern Conference?
You see those highlights of Ben Simmons finishing at the hoop with the jumping off the wrong foot? That's a trend that I love in today's game. You showed Kyrie Lrving do it. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander did it. Luka Doncic. Players in today's game are so fast and so athletic that when you get going towards the basket, you don't have time to stop. In my era, it was runners and it was floaters. But these players don't necessarily take that shot because you need a great touch to shoot it. And Ben Simmons will never be considered as somebody that has a quote-unquote great touch. But however, he's a great finisher. So he made 11 field goals, all in the paint, didn't make a shot clearly outside of it, didn't make that three. That will be something we talk about later in the year. But their height and their bulk, it really bothered the Celtics. Joel Embiid didn't have his best game, but he was still a physical presence along with Al Horford and Tobias Harris. All of those guys are just tall and physically imposing. And Josh Richardson, as a guard, he can play above the rim. So I like their defensive prowess, and it's hard to not appreciate them for being the best team in the East. That being said, I was disappointed in what I saw in the Boston Celtics.
Me too, a little bit.
I was disappointed in the Celtics.
Me too.
Their offense was stagnant. Players seemed to be still searching for roles.
Kemba didn't look great.
Kemba didn't look great. I agree with you. So I didn't like what I saw from the Celtics the opening night. But again, it's only one game.
One thing, I looked at this Celtics team, and I was watching the game, and I said to myself, because I like the Celtics, and I thought Kemba in for Kyrie would actually make them better. Gordon Hayward, I want him to come back and have a bounce back year, and I'm not going to overreact to one game. But one thing that's not going to change after one game is the roster, and they need a big. Robert Williams and Enes Kanter are not going to get it done on either sides of the floor to carry this team to be like an actual title contender. I feel like they're going to need to make a move to improve at that spot. I never thought I would say this into a microphone. They missed Aaron Baines. They actually missed Aaron Baines. Do you think this will be a problem for the Celtics moving forward?
Well, if you were going to get a former player of the Oklahoma City Thunder to play up front, I would have liked to see Steven Adams versus Enes Kanter, because he's going to provide you height, bulk, and a defensive ability that Kanter just doesn't bring you. But as I look deeper into their roster, they're really talented. I like all of their players, but individually, they seem like misfit toys all together. I like Gordon Hayward, but he can't really get his game going consistently. I like Marcus Smart and the toughness that he's going to bring, but he ain't going to be able to get a lot of minutes all of the time because you have Kemba. And then up front, I love Tatum's versatility and his ability to score, and he always keep a fresh cut. I would have taken care of Jalen Brown as well. You got to take care of the guys you take in the lottery, but it seems like all of those guys can't necessarily be on the floor at the same time. When I was watching the game last night, they were all on the floor at the same time. And that goes to what you said about their bigs lacking up front also.
Well, the Sixers look great, but I do have one concern. I feel like Josh Richardson's braids were way too tight. They were crisp, they look good, but it gave me a headache just looking at his braids. Moving on to the West Coast game that we had here on ESPN, it was the Portland Trail Blazers hosting the Nuggets. Hassan Whiteside looked pretty good. I kind of liked the way he looked, but it was Jokic and the Nuggets who ended up getting the win. But there was something about Jokic's game I want to mention. He had 20 points, 13 rebounds, but he only had 2 assists. And they run their offense through him, and one of my favorite things about him is ability to pass and to create for other players. Why did you think Jokic was limited to just 2 assists?
Well, Jacoby, he got 3 fouls so very early that he basically sat out the first half. So you're on the road at Portland, one of the best home teams in the league. When you insert him back into the game, now you have to figure, how can I be a dominant player tonight? And for him, it ended up being the 3-point shooting, in particular in the fourth quarter where he knocked down 3 of them. And so his ability to play on the post and to spread the floor still opens up driving lanes for so many people. And I keep telling people about the Denver Nuggets. Casual NBA fans, you better know about Murray. You better know about Harris. Of course you know about Millsap. He's a seasoned veteran. But they have so many other guys that I want people to get familiar with. Like Craig is going to come in and play quality minutes.
Give me Beasley.
Monte Morris. They're the deepest team collectively in the NBA. That each of those guys show up at the game and feel like they should play quality minutes late because they have the ability to. And that's without Michael Porter Jr.
And Monte Morris was so good when Harris went out last year. When Harris went out last year, Monte Morris really made his mark. They are so deep. Jalen, it's time for sophomore.
And Will Barton, my man.
I have a nickname for your current head football coach at Michigan, and that is the Kanye West of college football. Why do I call him that? Because it seems like he's always in the news. He's always in the news, and today he's in the news for something that honestly shocked me, and rarely am I shocked by something Jim Harbaugh did. He wrote a letter to the parents of all of his current players and committed recruits. And let's just a little excerpt from the letter. Let's read that. He wrote, quote, "I'm reaching out to let you know that the recent claims that I am, quote, pursuing an exit strategy, unquote, are total crap. It's an annual strategy driven by our enemies to cause disruption to our program and to negatively recruit." Jalen Rose, it sounds like before he wrote that, the edible sunk in. You know what I mean? He just seems paranoid. He just seems like what are you doing? What are you doing, Jim Harbaugh? No one needs this letter. Soft move or boss move, writing a letter to the parents of all of your players saying that your enemies have a strategy against you and using the word crap.
I feel like Uncle Chuck D. I got a letter from the government. This guy did a boss move right here.
No. Jalen.
Let me preach to you. This is leadership
don't do
101. This is leadership 101. Fall back and let me tell you why. While Kanye West was on a red carpet wishing his lovely wife happy birthday, the college football version was sending a letter. You know why you do that? So I don't have to send 100 texts. I don't have to send 100 emails. Y'all don't have to question my approach. Y'all don't have to think twice about the notion of me leaving. I'm putting it in writing. So therefore, if I leave, now y'all can throw it back in my face. This is what happens. Recruiting is dirty pool, Jacoby. Trust me, I've been a recruit. They talk about the other coach's age. They talk about his record. They talk about his background. They talk about his ethnicity. They talk about everything. He let people know that he's going to be in a square.
Well, he might get fired to look for an NFL job anyway. It's not his fault. Moving on. The Detroit Pistons are undefeated, Jalen Rose. Undefeated, Jalen Rose. We will celebrate the undefeated Detroit Pistons right after this.